Hi friends, today I'm taking you along while I sow my onions. This is around the time, maybe a little bit earlier from when I normally plant my onions, but it has been unseasonably warm here. We are expecting possible cool weather this week, but I do have some plastic and I could cover up my onions if I need to, if the temperature drops low enough. I'm hoping to get them in the ground today, and I just am trying to get rid of some of the stuff that's inside that really needs to be transplanted outside, and these are one of the things. So I just wanted to get these onions out here. But before I get started, I did want to ask you, if you're new to my channel, to please remember to subscribe to my channel, and if you enjoyed this video, remember to press like. Thank you so much. Now let's get started. Before we get too far into planting the onions, I did want to mention a couple things about onions. Onions can be started a couple different ways. You can start them from sets, and sets are little baby onions they sell at like Walmart, Home Depot. I've seen them at a lot of different stores, and they just look like little mini onions. The problem with them that I have found is that they don't all fully form into an onion. They'll turn into like a green onion you can cut, but they don't all fully form, and I've just not had good experience with them, so I don't even bother with them anymore. So I grow from seed, and I just feel like that's the cheapest way of doing it. Another alternative is buying yours from like a big box store, but I'm not sure. I would assume that they have the right varieties, because the way onions work is that they need a certain number of daylight hours. And so the top half of the US is long day onions, the middle of the US is intermediate, and the bottom of the US is called a short day onion. So you cannot just buy any onion and stick it in the ground and expect it to bulb. I would assume that a place like Home Depot would be selling the right variety for your area, but I would have no way of knowing that. So the only way you can really guarantee that you're getting the right type onion to grow is by starting it from seed, or like buying it from a company like Dixondale Farms, and you can choose the variety of onions that you want. So I think they're a great company, and if you have questions too, they're really helpful. I have never had a bad experience with them, and I just think if you're just starting out in gardening, it is a little bit on the pricey side. I'm not going to say they're cheap, but they certainly, if you're a gardener, sometimes, like I said, if you're considering this a hobby or a splurge, then you would do that. For me, I did do it one or two times, and then I decided, even though it's really nice and the plants are really good, it's not the frugal way of doing it, and so I started growing them from seeds, and I've done that probably the last 3 years, and I don't plan on going back to purchasing them unless for some reason my onion plants failed. But I've been having good luck with them, and so I'm going to share with you how I go about planting them. This is my raised bed that I built, and this is about 8 feet long and 4 feet wide approximately. I am going to be taking up this whole bed and planting all of these onion plants. They're not the most beautiful onion plants right now, but unfortunately I gave them a haircut at some point because they were getting long and they're starting to yellow. I'm very hopeful, and I'm pretty like 99% sure that they will be okay, but I am going to get them into the ground because I just, feel like they're going to do better in the ground than they are going to be in these pots. And I also sometimes am not very good about watering them regularly, so that might be part of the problem. But anyway, I want to get them in the ground, and I normally plant them about 3 inches apart from each other. Now, I do not measure or anything. It's just kind of eyeballing how I, when I put them in the ground. I will take out the plants and show you how I do it. So I grow my onion plants in a pot like this. Well, this is actually a mushroom container. I usually save my mushroom containers from Costco. And onions, like I've already separated some of these out. It's easy to separate them. You can pull out a certain number of plants, like they easily come out as you see. And then you can separate into the different plants and just pull them out. Even though you're disturbing the roots, they don't seem to be bothered by it, and their roots actually separate really easily. The other thing you need to keep in mind is when you're planting it, you do not want to plant the green part of the onion. You want to plant up to where the white is, because the white is right above the white area is where the onion is going to bulb. So if you plant it too deep, or you plant it like much further up, you're actually planting the area that the bulb is supposed to form, and it's going to be underground. It's not going to be able to form under the ground. So you need to plant only up to the white area is. It's kind of a difficult thing to do sometimes, honestly, because you need the plant to be planted deep enough so that it doesn't fall over, but not too deep that you keep it from bulbing. So you just have to be careful when you're planting it. And I do plant them approximately, I think I said 3 inches apart, which I'm going to eyeball, but I'm only going to plant as far as the white area is. As you can see on this bulb, when it's slightly turning to the green section, that's going to stay above ground. It's not the end of the world if you get them into the ground. You've planted them a little bit too deep, obviously not too far up there, but there is something called spooning, which a lot of people do as the plants are getting older and they're about to start forming the onions, or they're getting closer. As they're growing, people will start doing what's called spooning, and they just take a spoon and pull the dirt away from around the onion plant, just enough that the onion plant doesn't fall down, but it also keeps, the area around the base of the onion free so that the bulb can form there. So you want to keep the dirt away from that area, but for now we're just putting these in the ground. We're just going to try to not put the green area in, but even if you did, I feel like a little bit, it would not damage the plant too much, and you can later on pull some of that dirt away from it. But that's what you're aiming for, is to get these into the ground and only up to the white area. So I'm going to show you 1 or 2 how I get them in the ground. So there is no rules on this. You're kind of eyeballing it. Like I mentioned, you don't want to get the white area into the ground. So I'm going to aim for just covering up about this much of the onion plant. And usually, depending on how soft your soil is, I'm kind of digging a little hole here just to loosen up the area around it. But then I'm just going to stick my finger in here and kind of plant it up to the white area. And I do push down on it just to make sure that the plant is not going to topple over, because you're being really careful not to bury too much of the plant, but you don't want to bury so little of the plant that the plant topples over. So that's kind of how you do it. I'm just going to show you a couple more. Like I said, I'm eyeballing the 3 inches. If you do end up planting some of these too close together and you decide, oh, I planted them too close, you can certainly harvest some of these onions earlier. Onions are one of those crops that you can pretty much harvest at any time. Even this tiny plant, you could chop it up and eat it because it has the taste of onions. It's perfectly safe to do that. Some people use these onions when they're young as green onions. And that is pretty much it. That is how you get the onion plants into the ground. And so I'm going to go ahead and get a bunch of these into the ground. And hopefully in a couple months I'll be able to share a video with you on an onion harvest. So I'm in zone, I can never remember if it's zone 7A or 7B. I believe it's 7A. And in my area, I can plant onions as early as April. Now it is the end of March, so it's a little bit on the earlier side. But like I said, we've been having unusually warm weather, so I'm going to be taking a bit of a chance. And I'm slowly going to be working on these. I'm not sticking everything into the ground today, but I'm going to slowly be working and getting these into the ground. I work a full-time job, so sometimes I don't always have the time available, and I do it after work. So I'm going to be getting these into the ground, and I do have like a plastic I can put over these plants in case the weather does get cold for the last couple of weeks or so that are left of March. And I think by April we should be okay. But anyway, I do have a way, and I could certainly share that in another video, how I cover my plants in case of cold weather. And I'm just going to start putting these in the ground. But basically, like I mentioned, you just need to start from plants if at all possible. I will leave a link to Dixondale Farms. I highly recommend them. I think they're a really good company, and I have ordered from them in the past. But if that's not an option for you, and obviously it's getting kind of late and starting onion seeds right now, so it might be a better option to purchase them, and then your big box stores might have some onions available also. But you do need to make sure that they're the appropriate onions for your area if you need to be growing a long day, short day, or an intermediate day onion. I hope you learned something about planting onions, and I hope this video was useful. Please share with me what you're planting in your garden right now, and if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Please leave them in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching my video. As I mentioned before, please remember to press like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.